All right, good morning to those joining us live, and good morning, afternoon, evening, good night to everyone around the world watching at different times on YouTube. I appreciate you all. This is today's edition for My Empowered Political Life. It is already Saturday, March 29th in the year of our Lord 2025. And so this is our week in review, which we're starting to do each Saturday, and we're talking about masked men accosting people on the streets, literally. The deportation of immigrants with no due process, including, in many cases, as far as we can tell, um, legal immigrants. Oh, hang on one second. I think I just want to make sure something is working right. Hang on. I'm getting a strange error message. These are these are first world problems. These are first world. All right. No, looks like we're good. Again, sorry. Zoom lately has been giving me some funny error messages, but apparently nothing's wrong. So we're good to go. Let's do it. So we did talk about this a few days ago, especially in the context of the Venezuelan immigrants who were deported to El Salvador without due process. And as we said, a number of the folks who were deported are probably not nice people and were here illegally, but they did not have formal deportation orders, which is supposed to happen. And it turns out a number of them were here perfectly legally and are perfectly fine people and the sort of people we want immigrating here and being productive members of society, but they were all rounded up together and deported without due process. And we talked about how the administration ignored the court orders. There were court orders in place to not send these people abroad, and the administration just ignored it and did it anyway. Now today, uh, oh, and we did also talk about Mahmoud Khalil a few days ago, right? So I will link to some of these videos. He is a lawful permanent resident, and he was deported without any due process, and the government has now admitted this is happening in hundreds of cases. We have no idea how many because they're being secretive. They won't give the numbers. I saw Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, give a number of quote over 300. So who knows what that means? And we are only learning about specific cases where there is a bystander video or a public outcry about that specific case. Otherwise, this is happening to hundreds of people, maybe thousands. Who knows? We literally don't know. And a lot of the cases are not getting any personal attention. So I want to talk about some of these cases specifically. And this is a big one. You may have seen this in the news. There have been videos of it, thankfully posted because of a brave bystander and somebody's, I think, doorbell camera caught it on video. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen what actually happened and how bad it actually was. So, a PhD student at Tufts University, Rumeza Ozturk. She's in the United States on a lawful student visa to do her graduate work. So again, she's an immigrant. She is here lawfully. I believe she's a Turkish citizen, if I remember correctly. Ms. Ozturk has not been accused of any crime or illegal activity. The only accusation, as far as I can tell, is that she co-authored an op-ed in a newspaper that was seen by the administration as pro-Palestine. As far as I can tell, that's literally the only accusation of anything she did wrong. Now, if you were wondering if that sounds like protected free speech, that's because that sounds like protected free speech. She was arrested in rather dramatic, traumatizing fashion. Normally, the government does have a lot of discretion to revoke visas, like student visas. And they could have simply told her, your visa is revoked and we want you to leave and you need to leave. That's usually how this happens. But instead of going through the normal channels of actually revoking her visa and asking her to leave, which again is how that's typically done, here's what happened. So this is from, I believe, the doorbell camera. You'll see a creepy dude walking up there. You can see she's obviously terrified and has no idea what's happening. You notice them all wearing masks, and they didn't pull out their quote badges until after they'd already accosted her. Now they're going to take her belongings. And why are there six of them? Why does it take six people to do this? We're talking about a harmless person here. Why is she being handcuffed? What are they afraid she's going to do? Beat them up? You can hear the guy in the background saying, "Why are you hiding your faces?" We're going to look at his video from his. This is the brave bystander who took also a cell phone video, and he was not afraid to confront these people. So let's listen to this.
You guys covering your faces?
Covering their faces. Yeah, take your masks off. He's basically calling them cowards.
Is this a kidnapping?
It looks like a kidnapping.
Yeah, you don't look like it. Why are you hiding your faces?
If they're police,
Why are you hiding your faces?
You couldn't hear it, but they told him they're police. This is not how police act. They don't come up with masks on. This is what happens in third world countries. What are they afraid of?
Can I see some faces here? How do I know this is the police?
How do you know this is the police?
Seems like bullshit to me.
No.
Certainly looks like it.
Unmarked cars, plain clothes, masks on. And you might say, well, they have badges. I could buy those badges at Spencer's in the local mall, and it would look exactly the same.
Bit of a kidnapping going on here?
It looks like a kidnapping. So that's what's happening right now. So, again, the people who accost Ms. Ozturk are wearing plain clothes and masks. Now, why? If they are law enforcement with the power to arrest someone for a crime, why is there no uniform? Why are they not in marked vehicles? Why are they wearing masks? What are they afraid of? They only identify themselves as the police and they pull out the badges after they accost her. Again, those badges, I could buy that badge at the local mall, a replica, and you wouldn't know the difference. They don't appear, as far as we can tell from the video. It's hard to tell over the recording right now, but I've listened closely to the video and others have. They don't appear to tell her that she's under arrest. They have not alleged any crime. We know they are not, quote, the police. It appears they are immigration officers, which is not the same thing. Immigration officers do have some limited law enforcement powers, although this happened in Massachusetts. Their law enforcement powers are normally limited to places closer to the border. And we have the brave bystander challenging these masked people to remove their masks and identify themselves. Why are they afraid to do so? If they are operating lawfully as law enforcement officers, pursuant to lawful orders, they don't have anything to worry about. So there are other examples of this, and all the examples I've cited this week include Mahmoud Khalil and Ms. Ozturk, and some of the others here are happening to lawful residents who have done nothing wrong. A gay Venezuelan artist in Colorado was arrested in this fashion and sent off to an El Salvadorian, I think prison would be a kind word for, you could call it a gulag. You can only imagine what's happening there. A longtime restaurant owner in New Jersey was arrested and their restaurant shut down. Again, this is a lawful person apparently arrested because they may or may not have said something pro-Palestinian. We don't know. because the government won't tell us. A Russian scientist and anti-Putin activist was arrested in Boston. She had left the country. Again, she's here legally. This is a Russian scientist and an anti-Putin activist who's trying to escape Russia because she's in danger there. She was here legally. She had left the country briefly uh, to go to Europe and then came back and was arrested at Logan Airport in Boston. And a lot of these people apparently are being sent initially to some sort of immigration detention camp in Louisiana. It's not it's not super clear because everything's so secretive. So some other things we know, in all of the court cases so far decided on these issues, the courts have ruled in favor of the plaintiff, in favor of the person being arrested, and against the government. And the government is simply ignoring those court orders. They are just being disappeared. So masked men are accosting people and disappearing them. And we really don't know for sure where they are. Some of them just appear to be gone now. And their attorneys are not being allowed to communicate with them and are not being given clear information on where their clients are. So remember to like and subscribe, please. And we will get to Doors and Corners now, but please like and subscribe if you want to get the word out. That's the easiest thing you can do. Like and subscribe. That will help the algorithms boost all of this so we can get the word out on this stuff. So here's our daily segment on Doors and Corners, where we look behind doors and look around corners. Some of the implications and what's going on. For me, as someone who has studied, political history and political theory, it reminds me of Stalin's Soviet Union. In Stalin's Soviet Union, masked strangers could just accost you off the street and make you disappear, and you had no legal rights. That's literally what's happening right now. Masked strangers are accosting people who are here legally right off the street with no due process, no rights. We don't know for sure where they go. Their attorneys cannot talk to them. The court orders them to be set free or brought back or held locally, and the government ignores the order. So that is literally what's happening right now. And if not for brave bystanders with phone cameras, we wouldn't know about many of these situations. In fact, as I said, Secretary of State Rubio has admitted this has happened to at least 300 people. So we don't know the exact number. And we only have specific informations on the ones where there are brave bystanders who are willing to speak up and see what's happening. So let's talk about some objections, perhaps, to my position on what's happening here. You might say, but these people are immigrants. Yes, so far they all seem to be immigrants, but I mean, this is a genuine question. What's to stop the government from doing this to a natural born citizen? Honestly, that's a genuine question because we're talking mostly here about legal immigrants, people who are here legally. They're allowed to be here, the government's permission to be here. What if the government does this to you and they just ship you off to the camp in Louisiana and then on a plane to El Salvador? What's to stop them from doing that? Your attorneys can't communicate with you. Your family doesn't know where you are. The court says it can't happen, but the government ignores the court order. At this point, there's nothing to stop the government from doing it to anybody. Another objection, but they're here illegally. Some of them may be here illegally, especially in the context of the so-called Venezuelan gang members we talked about earlier this week. But many of the examples, and including all of the examples I've cited this week, are people who followed the legal process and are here legally. And even if someone is here illegally, there is supposed to be a formal deportation court order. There are still due process rights. But these people are dangerous. Are they dangerous? Genuine question, right? So if your objection is, but these are dangerous people, my genuine question to you is, are they? And how would you know if these people are dangerous? The government is simply telling us they are dangerous, and they have not given any evidence in a court of law to prove it. So really, if your objection is, but these are dangerous people, why do you think they're dangerous? That's my genuine question to you. I've seen no evidence that they are dangerous. Certainly the examples I've recently cited do not look like dangerous people whatsoever. But these people support terrorism. Again, my question is, do they? If that's your objection, if you think they support terrorism and should be sent out, why do you believe they support terrorism? How do you know that? That's my honest question to you. I don't know that. I don't think you know that either. Again, the government is simply saying it, but not really providing evidence. Or when they do provide evidence, it's this person wrote a newspaper article, which you're allowed to do. And here, but they're not citizens. Well, so what? So what if they're not citizens? The examples I've been citing this week, every example today and in my Mahmoud Khalil video, and even some of the examples in the Venezuela video, they are here legally. They followed the rules. And I thought if we wanted a rational immigration system, that we wanted people to follow the rules. And if you're here legally, you have a constitutional right to free speech and due process, whether or not you are a citizen. An interesting problem that I do not hear a lot of commentary on, I've only seen it mentioned in a couple of places. Um, what about stand your ground laws? Have you heard of stand your ground laws? In some states, you have the right to, quote, stand your ground, which means you have the right to use force, even deadly force, if you're in a public space and you're committing no crime and people come up and accost you. You have that legal right in a number of states. What if the folks who are being accosted use stand your ground laws to defend themselves? And some of these states have very liberal laws on carrying weapons. What if somebody is in a stand your ground state where they're also allowed to carry a gun on their person? Are they allowed to use force to protect themselves? They don't know who these people are. You're talking about people wearing sweatshirts and masks in unmarked cars with badges that may or may not be real. And they're not being told you're under arrest, and they're not being told what you're under arrest for. They're just grabbed and disappeared. Are these folks allowed to use stand your ground laws to defend themselves? I don't know. I don't know what happens at that point, because some of them may use that as a legal defense. So, what should you do if you witness this happening? First, you take out your phone and record. You make sure there's video documentation so the government cannot lie about what's happening. In the case of Miss Osterk today, I do not doubt that the government would be lying about what happened if there weren't video of it. So take out your phone and record it. Live stream it to Facebook, Insta, YouTube, wherever. Make sure you live stream. Why do you do that? Because these folks might try to stop your recording or take it away. And at least that way, there is a live stream record of what's happening. So make sure you live stream it. Demand they identify themselves and show their faces. Again, this is a cowardly act. This is a Stalinist Russia cowardly act. If they are truly law enforcement officers, and if they are acting pursuant to lawful orders, why are they so afraid to be identified? Look, if you get pulled over in your car, you can ask the police officer for their name and badge number, and you get to ask why you're pulled over. You have that right. This is a normal sort of thing for officers to identify themselves and explain what they're doing. And there's no reason for them to be afraid of their identities getting out there, unless, of course, they know they're doing something unlawful or morally wrong. Otherwise, there's no reason for them to hide themselves in this manner. So demand they identify themselves and show their faces. They won't, of course. And then call 911. Call the actual police. The thing is, you don't know these people are law enforcement officers. Again, unmarked cars, plain clothes, masks on, with badges that, for all you know, were purchased at the Spencers or the Claire's at the local mall. It's not hard to get a fake badge that looks just like a real badge. You don't know they're law enforcement. You don't know this is legal. And even if they are law enforcement, it sure doesn't seem legal to me. So call 911. Why? Because you are witnessing what looks to you like a kidnapping. And calling 911 is the normal, rational, expected response to witnessing an event like this. So call 911. Call 911 and tell the local police you are witnessing a kidnapping. Masked strangers in sweatpants are accosting a woman off the street. Can you get the police here immediately? And then let the local police show up and there will be a record of what's happening, and they may be able to interrupt the process, and hopefully there will be some due process for the person who's being accosted. All right, we've used this graphic before. I know it's a little disturbing, but this is where this is going. You got to speak up for the people. In fact, a few days ago, we had the Mueller quote about I didn't speak up for this group and that group and that group, and then there was nobody left to speak up for me in Nazi Germany. Whether you agree or disagree with the people who are being persecuted is entirely beside the point. If we don't speak up for the people we don't like, then nobody will be left to speak up for us.